Right folks, last week I was having my Exige serviced and I managed to take another Sport 410 out for a quick drive. I don't have much in the way of driving footage this time, but I thought I would just share my thoughts because it's quite interesting driving the same car a second time. It's a bit like watching a movie for the second time. You pick up things that you missed first time around. This rather magnificent black car you see here is actually the same car that was used in the Carfection video. So apart from the colour, the main difference between this car and the green car I drove in the first video is really that this car doesn't have a stereo. So it has the aluminium sort of blanking plate where the stereo double DIN head unit normally goes. But in terms of spec, there's not much different. Neither car has the titanium exhaust, both have got the standard steel exhaust. So here's a quick look at what you'll see through the rear view mirror, and as you can see the answer is not much apart from carbon louvers. I don't think it makes any practical difference because you can still tell whether or not there's a car behind you, but yes, rear visibility has not been improved. However, pretty much everything else has. I also had the opportunity to drive an Evora 400 on the same day. Now that car had the IPS automatic paddle shift box, which I have to say was surprisingly good. It's also got lower gearing than the manual, so actually the difference in power to weight ratio was disguised somewhat by the change in gearing. However, you can still notice a difference, albeit slight, in the way the 410 accelerates after 6,000 revs. So exactly like the first car I drove, that's where it's pulling with greatest enthusiasm, and where you're going to have to keep your Evora Sport 410 if you're ever going to pull away from an Evora 400. So the difference in straight line performance isn't great. But one very major difference and very obvious difference are the carbon seats. Being able to sit in both an Evora Sport 410 and a 400 on the same day, you really notice how much lower you sit in the car. I would guess it's at least an inch, probably two, and I had noticeably more headroom with the carbon seats compared to the Sparco seats. So that's a win-win for taller drivers, and it really must affect the centre of gravity. It also affects the driving position in a positive way. The steering wheel feels higher and straight out in front of you like a GT race car. So overall the carbon seats make more of a difference than I had previously appreciated. One thing that was just as good as in the first car I drove was the gearbox. It was just as slick, just as precise, a fantastic change, so clearly that's no fluke. One small detail that I noticed this time is the wire mesh grille either side of the new carbon fibre bonnet access panel. This replaces the Evora 400's rather chunkier plastic egg box grille and contributes to the 2 kilogram weight saving over the front axle. So overall I was impressed with the consistency between the two Evora 410s I drove. Both cars shared the same alertness and engaging, engrossing, invigorating qualities, and this time I had driven an Evora GTE between the two, and the comparison was really interesting. I actually think the Evora GTE rides slightly better, but anyone who missed out on the Evora GTE can console themselves with the Sport 410 package, which is in its own way very nearly as exotic. The thing that really struck me this time was just how good looking this car is actually, and yeah, I've always liked the Evora 400, but the desirability of the 410 for me, it really is up a whole nother level. For me it offers a really nice combination of most of the responsiveness and agility of the Exige, plus it has considerably better GT ability and nicer road manners. It's a more comfortable, bigger car. It hits quite a sweet spot for me, and that's quite an attractive option for my next car, and I actually drove back from this test drive deciding that I would order one if Lotus would agree to the colour that I'd requested, which is a one-off Difficult colour, I grant you, but nevertheless I came back in after the test drive and was told that Lotus are not prepared to do the colour that I wanted. So I haven't put an order in yet, and I'm going to reconsider some other colours, and also the new 380 Cup, of course, which will be coming in a slightly higher price than this. So anyway, plenty to think about over the next few weeks. Do leave some feedback in the comments section about which car you would be most interested in watching films about. I'll take that into account, and I will leave you with this Easter egg, if you will. The Evora 400 I drove also had Bell & Colville's new quieter titanium system. I think it will get you on more track days. It's 10 kilos lighter, it's much cheaper than the factory system. It fits the Evora 400 and the Sport 410, and it also fits the Exige 380. Anyway, have a listen, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.